Viewers, this is also a beginning for us, for the Business Today show, the markets show opening and closing here on India Today, brought to you by the National Stock Exchange. As we continue our coverage, I want to toss this one to you, Rajdeep. In terms of that term that you have dealt with, dream budgets, the scope for dream budgets again changing because the Indian economy has been opened up, license Raj has been dismantled to a very, very significant extent. Yet budget making continues to fascinate everyone, including us who do it for a living. What do you think is your most seminal memory of the budget days?
Look, I'm not going to go into the past. You'll make me feel even older. But I'll only say that these words used, big bang budget, dream budget, I think we should refrain from making, these catchwords. They make great headlines. You remember Chidambaram's budget in 97 was sort of billed as the dream budget. Then we've had budgets being built as big bang budgets. I think budget making should be prosaic. What should be there is a vision. I have absolutely no problem that budget making increasingly should be about the vision and the direction in which you're taking the government. The word you used is the buzzword at the moment, deregulation. Everyone you talk about to says this budget will be about deregulation. Now, what does that mean? I know Shankar has been writing about it for years. And just one more point.
Yeah.
For years, we have not focused on state budgets. As the economic survey also pointed out, you've got about 19 states now with high revenue deficits. How much do we actually look at state budgets? State budgets actually at the end of the day affect far more.
No, Rajdeep, and that is why one of the other things, and that happens every 5 years, very significant this time, which is the report of the 16th Finance Commission headed by Arvind Panagaria. That will now decide what will be the share of states in the overall central kitty. And remember, from 2000-2001, it's gone up from 29.5% to 41%, with that additional 1% of 41 being on account of Jammu and Kashmir. And remember, I think for the state governments, they will perhaps, state finance ministers, state chief ministers will be looking at that with a great focus, because it's also about the so-called alleged north-south divide, which is also played out politically, and the allegations that the center is pulling back funding. See what is happening on G bill.
Sure, and you've got 4 big state elections in just a couple of months. So we've seen in the past, budgets have been at sometimes influenced by immediate electoral considerations, which is why I said you want a broad vision. You don't want to look at just the next 3 months, and to the credit.
Which is why the promise of the government that 75 years might be a change. We might just see this whole changing once again. We will be left with no arguments to make on it.
So in a strange way, rather than look at the next 3 months, look at the next 20 years. The government talks of Vixit Bharat 2047. But Shankar Iyer, because you've been writing about it so often in terms of deregulation, this whole buzzword, it's become almost like a buzzword that this budget will see deregulation. We've seen many false alarms there with governments in the past. There have been pushbacks. Do you believe now the government has the strength, both politically and in terms of certain global headwinds, to take the kind of tough decisions, some of which have been taken in the last 12 months by the Modi government, the so-called Reform Express? Do you believe that that is going to be a critical aspect of what we will see today?
Nothing like a crisis to clarify the mind.
That's right.
So all of the reforms that have happened in India are mostly driven by some form of crisis or not, and that sort of gives me a shot at plugging my book, Accidental India. But more importantly, if you look at the last 10 years itself, labor reforms, the labor code was first drawn out in 2015-16, was reformalized in 2019, was sent to the state governments in 2020, and has been officially sort of unveiled in 2026. This is a government which has had a full majority. This is a government or a political alliance which is ruling in 15 states, and yet they couldn't push. Now let's go back to ease of doing business. For 10 years, we've been hearing ease of doing business. This year, earlier, I think in August or September, Parliament, there was a question, how many clearances you require for a power project? 116. And for the other sectors, it's even worse. 10 years back, when Amitabh Kant used to be the new poster boy in DPIT and sort of talk about ease of doing business, I asked him whether they have ever done a flowchart of the clearances, the permissions. 115 clearances, which means that the file moves from the municipal center to the state capital to the national capital like a mileage gatherer. And all of this is completely raised. Let's see whether the Somnathan committee actually produces something. Because it's easy to say mother of all deals when we still don't know what is the impact of the UK deal.
No, but let's look at this way. The fact is, yes, over the years, there have been various, this debate has gone on about the number of regulatory compliances you need. To be fair to this government, they've made the effort. You cannot fault the Narendra Modi government on effort. Whether it's translated on the ground into, I meet MSMEs who still say that they get haunted both by GST tax inspectors, there's Tax Inspector Raj of GSTs, and they still have an unusual number of compliances to fill in. So it comes down to it, Rajiv, one thing is intent. The Modi government has shown intent on some of these issues, particularly over the last 12 months. Intent translating into action on the ground. Is that to be done in Delhi or is that to be done in the states? Is a question that's often asked.
I can't sort of resist the temptation.
Yes.
This government intent is always executed. Whether policy is executed or not is a separate question. The Prime Minister says...
Give me an example.
So they have said for years that they will fix the power sector. This is the second bailout that is being planned next month in the new electricity bill in the last 10 years. Last time the Udaya or scheme was there. This time there will be some new name. But the power sector loses something like 80,000 crores every year and they haven't fixed it.
Very quickly, Rajiv, yes. Do you believe, where is the block for intent? The buzz is that this budget will be about a vision statement. It's one thing to have a vision. How do you translate the vision into action on the ground in a country of a subcontinental size with chief ministers, many of whom believe they are just as powerful as Delhi?
So some of these items are in the union list and thus the central government has to drive them. But many of the items like we discussed are also now state subjects and which have to be driven by different states at different levels.
But 19 states with huge revenue deficits before every election, the kind of freebie culture that it is.
There is a double engine sarkar now.
No, but whether it's double engine, triple engine, the fact is across the board,
they should implement these reforms.
Yeah,
one political intent which is being displayed perhaps is also in the choice of the Saree of Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. I'm going to put that out. It's very interesting that she is wearing a hand-woven Kanjiwaram Saree, sending a message to Tamil Nadu. And if you look at, this is her 9th consecutive budget. And from 2019 to 2026, the transition has been rather very, very interesting. Last year, the message was going to another poll-bound state, that is my home state of Bihar, where she chose to wear Madhubani print saree. This time it is Kanjivaram, honoring perhaps the Tamil Nadu's age-old weaving legacy. So that is how it has been from Ikkat to Bomkai to Katha and to Madhubani. So the message is very clear that the intent and of course the political messaging is for one of the poll-bound states, which is Tamil Nadu. We should be prepared for some SOPs to come in for also Bengal and Tamil Nadu, keeping in mind